The process of the implant bridge is actually quite varied. We've been providing patients with implant bridges for over 40 years, 50 years, and it's evolved quite a bit. And so we've got three major groups at this point. The first process for an implant bridge that I'd like to discuss is the conventional process. It is predictable. We know how it works because we've got a lot of experience with it. The process is split into several stages. The first stage being removal of any teeth that are present. So take out the teeth and then the gum and bone is left to heal for about 8 to 12 weeks. Exactly how long you wait depends on how fast someone heals. The second stage then begins with some sort of CT scan or CBCT scan to evaluate the bone healing, and then we plan the location of the implants. You continue with that second stage by placing the implants. So this is a second surgery that you're having, and then leaving the implants in the bone and letting the bone heal and bond to those implants. Once the necessary time has elapsed, usually, as I said, 2 to 3 months, then we come back in the third stage, assess how well the implants have healed to the bone, and then start construction of the bridge. So the construction of the bridge, depending on where you're at and the lab facilities available, it may take 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 7 or 8 weeks to finish. So it can be a while. So if you're looking at this process overall, it's about 7 months to get from start to finish, and that's assuming that there isn't any bone graft that's required. The reason why you'd want to go through with a process in this way is if you are a high-risk individual, where there's a high risk that one of these stages isn't going to work. And by spreading out these stages, you have the ability to do one part, make sure that it works before you move on to the next stage. The downside of this treatment is that it takes more time, and you go through quite a lot of this time with some sort of denture as a temporary, and you may or may not be able to tolerate this denture. For example, if you are a gagger or have propensity to gag, then wearing a denture for the 7 months that it's going to take to complete this treatment can be a real trial. The other major downside is the cost. This is actually the highest cost way of getting an implant bridge. The second way of getting an implant bridge is often referred to as an immediate implant bridge. There are various trademarks around called All-on-4, for example, and it is a more efficient way of getting an implant bridge than the conventional method. And it came about because really waiting 7 months to get replacement teeth was a struggle, and we want to be able to give patients treatment in a more efficient manner. The phrase immediate implant bridge, however, is used fairly loosely because you don't actually get your immediate implant bridge immediately after the implants are put in. You actually get it a bit of time afterwards, as you'll see through this explanation. So again, treatment is split into different stages. The first one being planning. You have to assess things properly. You have to see where the teeth are, where the teeth need to be, and what bone is present, and make sure that there's enough bone to be able to put some implants into. The second stage is then to remove the teeth that are present, put the implants in, and reshape any areas of bone that are not necessary or are actually in the way. At that surgical appointment, an impression is usually taken. We can register the position of the implants. Usually, either later that day or possibly the next day, a prototype bridge has been made by the lab and you try it in. It is challenging at this point to actually assess whether or not the teeth are in the right spot, because often you have to be numbed again, swelling is starting to take hold, and it can be a bit uncomfortable. But once you've decided where the teeth are going to go, then the bridge is actually made. So this may take 24 hours, it may take 40 hours, 48 hours, it just depends on the laboratory and support that the clinician has. But you come back maybe a day later or possibly 2 days later and you put the bridge in place. So when you look at this overall, from the time of surgery, the time you get your teeth might be 24 hours, or it might be 48 hours, or it might be 72 hours. It depends a bit. So whilst we call this an immediate implant bridge, it's actually not truly an immediate. It's almost an immediate implant bridge. So the advantage of doing this compared to your conventional process is that you get the teeth much sooner. The downside is that you actually put all the processes together, and so you are taking the risk that is in each part of the process of tooth removal, putting the implants in, and then making the bridge, and lumping it all into one series of appointments over 2 to 3 days. And if one of those parts of the process doesn't work, the whole thing falls over. And so you have to be, if you're going to go down this path, you actually have to be quite sure that it's going to work. The third way of getting an implant bridge is the method called Audentes. This is, again, a trademark term for a very particular process. The first stage in the process is to do lots of planning. The key to the success of this treatment is to plan, and then plan some more. We need to correctly assess whether you've got enough bone for implants, where any grafting might be needed, and also where the teeth are going to end up, and what shape you would like them to be, and the color, and so on. So there is a lot of planning that goes into this, more planning than any of the other treatment options. Once we've got all the planning done, we then actually make the implant bridge. So we're making the implant bridge before you have your implants put in. You can look at the implant bridge, touch, feel it, look at the different facets of it, and understand what you're getting. Unfortunately, we can't actually position it in your mouth in the exact spot that it's going to be in. However, there are several simulations that are performed so that you can see it virtually. The second stage of the treatment is to have any teeth removed, the implants put in, and then the bridge put in. So this all happens at one visit. Typically, the visit is 90 minutes long, maybe 2 hours, depending on the complexity, but you essentially go from your existing teeth to the new teeth in one go in 90 minutes. And that is the point of difference of Audentes against all the other pseudo-immediate bridge options. So by putting in the teeth straight away, you can then go home after surgery. You don't have to come back the next day. You don't have to come back 2 days later to have things fitted or things tested. So there are two major limitations with the Audentes process. The first one is that we are bundling risk. That is, we are combining lots of steps again, and there's a small risk with each of those that it's not going to proceed correctly, and we are sort of popping them all together. So you overall have a slightly higher risk when doing the Audentes process or even the pseudo-immediate bridge process compared to the conventional implant bridge process. The second issue is, or second limitation, is that the bridge that we construct, we can't actually put that in your mouth prior to the treatment proceeding. You have to take the teeth out, put the implants in before we can actually fix the bridge in place. If you were doing a direct comparison between the conventional implant bridge process versus, say, All-on-4 versus Audentes, the major differences are risk and time. The conventional process is the lowest risk but takes the longest. The All-on-4 is higher risk but is significantly shorter, and that will take maybe 1, 2, 3 days. Audentes is also, like All-on-4, higher risk. However, you get your teeth straight away. And how you choose between those three options depends on what you value most, whether you are willing to tolerate some extra risk versus whether you want to have the most convenient process and the least time in the dental chair. If you don't want to take any risks whatsoever, then we would steer you towards the conventional implant bridge process. If you value convenience and time saving the most, then we would steer you towards the Audentes process.